basically dominating the country together with very strong still ruling white class. So the temptation of the black class is, in order not to threaten their own privileges, to play the race card, no? And this I see, and here again, I agree with you. International capital is a very tricky thing, you know. You can do your reforms, if they go too fast, capital flees and you are where you are, which is why, incidentally, I am getting, I'm sorry if you disagree with me, more and more critical about Chavez. I think he's more and, first I admired Chavez. Why? Because he was the only one, apart from Aristide and later Morales, who did something which is crucial to do. He really politically mobilized this Indian, aboriginal Indian in the sense of whatever, majority there. And this is crucial. I mean, people in favelas, slums. If we don't politically mobilize them, we are approaching a silent, at least civil war, eternal. There, but now all that he's basically doing is playing the typical Latino-American populism with American dollars or for whatever, but here I don't see any actual change in social structure. It's the usual process. Middle classes are flying out, industry is regressing, he's going in he's rather following what was bad in the Cuban Revolution. For example, do you know that they already import Venezuela, fertile country, they already import 70% of their food, and so on and so on. So I agree with you, but nonetheless, this, I think, what does this mean? This means, of course, we have to play tricky games within the regime, but my answer would have been, this is, like you said, if you just put, if you see, the way you formulated things is that the two players were international capital and nation states. Everything is permitted here to our struggle. One game which is much more important than may appear, maybe also in India, I know in many African countries, it's tragic. For example, years ago, I read an interview with the Minister of Economy of Mali, Republic of Mali. He said something shocking to me. He said, we don't want from the West any of your help. We just ask you, please respect your own free competition game rules. He says, and I checked it up with my French economists, do you know that Mali produces the best cotton in the world for 1/3 of the price of American cotton? To protect their own cotton producers, United States give more money to subsidize their cotton industry than the entire state budget of Mali. In the north, Europe is doing the same, milk industry, Nestle, and so on. So you know, one of the fields of struggle is it's simply to put the pressure on the West. You know, what's so shocking of the West, it's that it's not liberal free market capitalism. They cheat like crazy, my God, when it's in their interest. United States, who spoke about state, you know, United States like to play these games giving advices to poor country. Diminish bureaucracy, more free market, where they should begin with themselves, my God. So, you know, there is, but my main thing would be, I agree with you, as long as you move within these two coordinates, international capital versus state, the battle can be won, which is why I think what is really needed, and we will have somehow to reinvent them. If not, then we are lost, maybe. Some kind of a international solidarity movements and so on and so on. The old motto that English practiced to perfection with you ago, you know, rule and divide, one Maharaja against the other with all this multiculturalism and so on, no? That's the enemy more than ever today, I claim. So again, yes, I agree with you, there are even more problems here.
Right, I'll come to you after the gentleman in the yellow shirt. Yes. And then, if I'm not mistaken, what you said throughout your lecture, for me it meant that there is a very deep crisis in Marxist theory. Crisis in Marxist theory.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and but you didn't spell it out. So Uh, I think whether you mean it is so deep that you have to rethink at basic theoretical propositions of Marxism. That is one. Even at the historical materialism, etc. level. Secondly, there is a shattering of a vision, shattering of the utopia, shattering of the dream. So there was a certain kind of communist dream, and I'm talking from whatever impressions I got from your lecture, but you didn't spell it out. That's what a second question also is related to. So after debacle or whatever happened in Soviet Union and East Europe and China, even Cuba and Vietnam, there is, for the rest of the exploited people, there is for the movement, it is a shattering of the old dream, old vision. So whether you want to say that there is a necessity of creation of new dream on the basis of a new theory, development of the theory and radically new theory. That is one aspect. Secondly, there was no mention of gender exploitation throughout your lecture. I can understand that if you don't talk about caste system because it is not the global level system. But gender exploitation is world over, and your presentation appeared to me as a classicist kind of a presentation in which you consider only class. And changes in the class relations, changes in the class forms, etc., etc., etc. So you don't refer to the basic exploitation relation, which is related to all human beings in a very different sense, and half of the society is exploited because of which. So I was wondering why this. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'm not sure because of a bad sound, I totally understood what you said. So let me just try to answer. First, crisis of Marxism, of course, but nonetheless, you know, when people ask me, but how can you be sure that your new communism, whatever will it be, will not turn up into the same kind of deplorable totalitarianism like Stalinism and so on and so on? Well, my brutal answer is that you already have it. Stalinists already repainted themselves as most efficient capitalists today in China and so on and so on. My reproach to pro-capitalists here is, sorry, Stalinism is now your problem. All Stalinists already reinvented themselves as more efficient and ruthless. You know, if you think that I exaggerate, I have some very good friends in China, and they sent me a book which made me very sad. The official sacred book, you know, every communist party in power has the book of history of our party, which tells the official myth, no? Like the famous history of Bolshevik party. Okay. And the guy gave me 2 editions and brought my attention to a fact. In the latest edition, 1 chapter is censored of the official history of Chinese Communist Party. The chapter describing the significant role of the party, you know, when nonetheless in the 20s and early 30s, before war with Japan, there was some kind of explosion of development, at least in Shanghai and that part. There, the Communist Party played a very honorable role of organizing workers, trade unions, strike, and so on. That chapter disappeared because it may have give wrong idea for today, you know, like what they really are afraid, nobody cares about religion if it's not politically independent. What they really fear is ecology if you probe too deep into it, and trade union independent workers organizations. There you really risk it. So what I'm saying is that for me, again, Stalinism is no longer my problem. The problem should be for advocates of capitalism. How do you explain that? That the most efficient form of capitalism is with Stalinists in power? That's your problem, not mine, if you are there. When you said of necessity, but precisely of new dream, but precisely for me, necessity in the sense that if we want to live a dignified life, we will have to do it, but not necessity in the old Marxist sense. I don't think there is any historical necessity. But now, the most interesting aspect, which will be, again, I agree, problematic. with you. I totally support all these struggles, gender, race, tolerance, and so on. The reason I don't emphasize them too much is not only that others talk all the time about them, but another reason. How ambiguous can some of these struggles be? For example, let's take the United States American feminism. Okay, of course I support it. But you know, whenever I read American feminist text, at least the majority of it, I'm always shocked by the implicit class bias. In the sense that not only it's not class neutral, but basically